French, for example, I'm giving
French
you.
is a very patriarchal, misogynist, sexist language.
No problem.
As is Spanish.
Let me. We can talk about patriarch in a second, but what I was going to say was that patriarch. That French language. Yeah, they actually have commissions in place to try and basically keep the language pure in a sense. Yeah.
They do indeed.
Yeah. So in English language, what happens is, the language is malleable in the sense that we can actually introduce new words into the language.
Look at the number of words in French compared to the number of words in English.
So as far as I know, according to majority of dictionaries, now the word guys can include males and females. And if you're arguing from, let's say, a woman's perspective, or you want the words to be more inclusive or whatever, I would say that's a good thing. Why not own the word guys in a sense?
No, because
you don't want
means something very specific.
All right, well, let's make it more general then.
I'm saying we should come up with new words. And
No
I'm
problem.
Saying that
You have the right to come up with new words.
Yeah, but are the men going to use those words?
Yeah, if you
Are
use
you
them.
willing to stand here?
Yeah, no problem.
Well, I would say you all, or y'all, or ladies and gentlemen, or something that's more inclusive. But
So let's get to the heart of it, right? Let's talk about patriarchy.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about patriarchy, okay? So for me, I think that there are layers of oppression, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not denying. I've never denied that men oppress women.
Okay.
And that's the idea of patriarchy, where you have men oppressing women or exploiting them in any system, in any given system, okay?
Men are in charge.
But what I find is a problematic element of the feminist argument. I'm not saying that you're a feminist, but I'm just saying that those are
Just
the...
like I don't see you as
Yeah.
speaking for all
But
Muslims.
what I was going to say, yeah, of course. But what I was going to say was what I find problematic about it is that what's not identified is that there are different layers of oppression. For instance, yeah? Yes, it's true that men oppress women. But it's also true that women oppress women. So for instance here...
That's part of patriarchy.
Yeah, and men oppress men. So for instance, yeah?
No, but we're talking about a systemic
she's talking
systemic
about
problem.
systemic problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Like racism.
So no,
like,
I reckon
black people aren't racist. There's a systemic
But there is
problem.
I would argue, there's a systemic problem in the system of capitalism that we have. Yeah, I would call it a problem whereby...
Capitalism and patriarchy work together.
Yeah, and I believe that we have to identify those things, right? But so if we're saying that, for instance, you're a woman, yeah? As far as I can identify. In Africa, you have men. In my opinion, me and you, yeah, are working in a system, contributing to it and not objecting to it in some cases. Maybe this is an example of us working in that direction, but usually not objecting to a system of economics, which means that people in the West, men and women, exploit people in the African subcontinent, for example.
Of course.
Okay, if that's the case, then why is there a special word for when men oppress women, and there is no special word for when women oppress women that are also, or men even, in the African subcontinent? Because that's, I would argue, a more exacerbated reality. It's more problematic. Now it's imperialism, but what I believe feminism is what it's like. It's kind of like Marxism in a sense, because it defines very clearly the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. The bourgeoisie are the men, and the proletariat are the women.
Marxists are very bad feminists.
No, I understand. You have Marxist feminists, but what I'm saying is that the structure, the framework is very, very similar. So the bourgeoisie become men, and the proletariat are the women. Yeah, and it's almost as if there is a systemic exploitation of women by men throughout the histories or throughout the times. What I'm saying to you is that it's more complicated than that. Yeah, when we look at the household, when you look at the bulk of human civilization, 7 billion individuals on the planet Earth, and we look at historical civilizations and populations that existed within them, what you do have, whatever way you want to look at it, is hegemony. So you have at the top a system or a people or an empire or a country or countries or a hemisphere that is usually a beneficiary of some kind of economic system. In this case, it's capitalism. Yeah. So here,
I don't understand why you're making a connection between
so
capitalism and
no. This is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
oppression of women. I don't
what I'm
see
saying.
any connection
No,
whatsoever.
what I'm trying to say is this.
That's probably the opposite.
No. What I'm trying to say is, just as I agree that there are some men that oppress some women. Yeah. I'm saying to you
It's not just an individual.
No. But what I'm saying to you is that women oppress some men and also some women. So here, what you have to see is that basically oppression is rampant and everywhere. So here, what you're basically saying to me is that why don't we have this and that or patriarchy, whatever. I'm saying that, listen, humans oppress...
Let me speak, so you don't really
Yeah,
know
of course.
what I'm
No, but that's what you said before. I'm just, yeah. So what I'm saying to you, what I'm saying to you is
You're being oppressed,
that...
I think.
No, sorry. What I'm saying to you is that people are oppressing people, yeah? Now, there are some very women-specific...
Just like men are raped too, I know.
No, I'm not saying men are raped too.
No,
That's
I'm
a straw man.
saying-
That's not what I'm saying.
I'm saying that's the argument that you're giving. It's like,
No,
okay, sure. So at me as an American, I'm U.S. American,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So that means that I'm oppressing women in Africa because I buy the products that they've made.
You're
and
acquiescent.
they're
You're acquiescent to an oppression that's going
What
on.
I'm acquiescent. How do you know what I'm supporting and what I'm not supporting?
Because in this course, you've highlighted one oppression without mentioning the other one.
We can talk about all of them if
Let's
you like,
do it.
but mine specifically right now is the way that you as a man and how most men speak in conversations like this.
Okay.
Like how mostly we refer to women as girls instead of women, and we refer to men as guys or men. And so I think that then
What's
when
the
we
problem
step
with
into... What's the problem? What do you mean?
What's the issue then?
So if we're discussing males and females, and you consider yourself a man and you consider me a girl, you don't find a problem with that?
I don't consider you a girl. I consider you a woman.
In colloquial terms, the way that most people are speaking,
Everyone
do
seems
they
pretty
say
young to me.
do they say women, or do they call a woman like me about my age a girl?
Well, in your country, I don't know. Like in America.
Here, I was just speaking with some men, and they were talking
No,
about, well, if I date a girl,
I think in this country.
well, if I date
right,
a
okay.
girl,
Maybe
and
like
I
that.
meet a girl,
yeah.
like that, right? But
Yeah. So what's the
we're not
issue?
girls.
What's the problem?
Do you think that there's a problem that if I step into this space right here and the men here see themselves as men and they see me as a girl, like a child,
Maybe, yeah.
that maybe
it's
that's
infantilizing in that.
yeah,
yeah.
don't you
If
think
you
it's
feel okay,
creating unfair
maybe
playing
you're right.
ground?
So I reckon that maybe sometimes women can also say, "I've dated a boy."
When do we say that?
I don't know, man. I've heard that.
Rarely. I'm
I know,
talking
but
about
hold on a
in regular
second.
But I haven't done.
discussion.
I haven't
That's
done.
not right, is it? Because what we're doing is we are
Yeah,
attacking
yeah.
her now.
No, I'm not trying to
like,
attack
We
her.
are, because what we're doing is
Yeah.
we're saying there's this counter-argument. She's actually telling you something which she believes to be true.
Right.
We need to embrace that and not bring
Fine.
up some
Okay.
other argument.
No, you're
Is
right.
that
You're right. I'll accept that. But I haven't done any sociological, longitudinal or otherwise
But what she just said was correct, wasn't it?
broad-scale study to see who is saying
But if I
what.
called you a boy, you wouldn't like it, would you?
No.
And nor would I.
No.
And nor would Preston, and no one would
you
like
find
that.
it very
Okay. Fine.
offensive.
Fine.
Right, so
All right.
she's
Maybe there's some
absolutely
issues there.
valid
Maybe
point.
you're right.
Of course. And it's the same way that
Not maybe,
so like
definitely.
I'm a woman.
Yeah, all right.
Even
Accept
me
it.
as a woman,
Yeah.
that definition is based upon my relationship to my
Yeah.
husband. So I only either I'm the property of my father, I take his name, and he tells me when I'm released
Yeah.
to my
In
husband.
Islam,
And then I
it's not.
become
You're not
his
allowed to
property.
have your your husband's surname.
Not allowed to.
No,
Why
you're
is
not allowed
that?
to. Because Islam came to protect 5 fundamental rights. They're called ad-darurat al-khams. One of them, so it's like life, lineage, wealth, dignity of the person, etc. So and religion. One of them is lineage. So when a woman gets married to a husband, she has to maintain her name. She can't change her name to her husband's name.
And would you agree that? Well, why is it that men are allowed to have multiple wives, but women aren't allowed to have multiple husbands?
Okay, so in Islam, we believe there's some principles that you need to know.
Even besides
Right.
Islam.
Oh, generally.
Let's speak generally.
Because
Okay.
it's desirable.
Why are
Well, I
men
can only-
allowed to
Because
fuck whoever they
it's
want?
desirable and men have power. That's
Okay,
the
let
answer
me.
you don't want to hear, but that's the truth.
No, hold on. Let me tell you. Even if we argue in that sense, right?
Well, we don't have to argue, it's a fact.
No problem. No, but that's once again, just because it is, it doesn't mean it's wrong.
No, I don't
no,
think
no.
it is right. What
Right,
I'm
no,
saying is
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a fact
So-
that men
let me
do
say- let me
marry
tell you,
lots
right.
of women in,
Let me-
say, Utah, for example, right?
Okay, so let me answer you, right? The truth is this.
Wait, when you start something with the truth is this, it leads everyone to believe that that's the truth, and I don't.
I don't think. I think you're more critical than that. I think you employ more of a
He's used
criticality
to-
than that.
Ooh,
He's used to
okay.
proselytizing. That's his
Yeah,
problem here.
right. And
So,
he's
okay.
a tall, handsome man who's very charismatic, so he can start a sentence with, "The truth of the matter is," but actually it's not
Doesn't
the
work
truth,
for me,
it's your
Mohammed.
opinion.
Doesn't- doesn't work
Your
for me.
opinion is that
My
what?
opinion is, I believe.
Uh-huh.
I'm convinced.
I like
So
that.
actually, no, in
Right.
fairness, you have said, I think I feel.
Yeah,
a few
right,
times.
right.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
All right. So, Islamically,
pretty neutral.
Islamically, right?
Islamically.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Innama an-nisa'u shaqa'iqu rijal," that men are equal to women. However, there are some exceptions from an Islamic perspective to that. So we don't believe. We were talking about absolute freedom of speech. We said that we've debunked that kind of. You could say, yeah.
You don't have absolute equality of
Yes,
men.
we don't believe in absolute equality. We believe in a general equality and not in an absolute one. So we would say that in order to believe in an absolute equality between men and women, you would have to assume that the natural predispositions of either men or women, whether it be biological, psychological, or otherwise, should be disregarded in terms of, for example, application of laws. Simone de Beauvoir, and I always mention her because she's quite mainstream. When she talked about feminism, she had a second chapter called biology. Yeah.
I'm a good feminist.
Well, that's what you would say. I don't believe she was.
Camilla
Why?
Paglia.
Well, I'll tell you why. In her second chapter on biology, she very candidly and clearly, honestly, unequivocally, unambiguously, right, mentions the differences between men and women in terms of biology. She even says men are stronger than women, that women are more emotional than men. All those things that are maybe in the common vernacular quite,
and maybe
politically
the majority
incorrect.
of times, but that's not true.
But even
No,
if
no.
that was true, I think the application of inequality doesn't fit that.
No, what I was going to say is that this is the argument. This is the thrust of the second her argument. She's saying that despite the differences, we should have equality.
Not equality, but equality and equity is very
Excellent,
different.
excellent,
Equity.
perfect. So, if you agree with me that an absolute equality is not something which is either desirable or feasible, then we can move on. But if you're saying that actually, despite the physiological, psychological, biological differences, despite that, we should have absolute equality.
Could you make clear the testimony arguments?
No, but one thing at a time, because polygamy came into it, so I'm trying to
polygamy
build an
doesn't-
argument.
The testimony is an important one.
No, I don't want equality. I don't want to be a man.
So what is equity
at
then?
all.
Equity here, usually in the dictionary, is referred to as some kind of fairness, yeah?
Right.
But once again, it's very arbitrary and subjective. So,
Sure, but like I just spent 6 weeks in Morocco,
Yeah, all right.
and what I saw there was not equity in any
no,
way
but that's your
whatsoever.
opinion, right? I'm not saying it is equity as well. I've been to Morocco many times, like 3 or 4 times.
Sure, I
And
had a great time. The people there are beautiful. I learned a lot about Islam that I did not know before.
Okay.
I actually agree with a lot of what's going on. But when I pass by the cafes,
No,
and
I agree, I agree.
and
I
I
agree.
see men
Yeah.
sitting around sipping on their tea, watching football all day, and where are the women?
Sounds like here.
Where are
That's where
they?
culture
They're
comes
nowhere
in.
to
It's
be
not-
found. But it's, I
It's
mean,
not Islam, it's actually the culture of the
Are you a
country.
Moroccan brother?
but
Trying to come and defend yourself, brother.
I've only been to
They're
two
wrong for what they're doing.
Muslim
Yeah.
countries.
Yeah, no, for sure.
They are wrong for what they're doing.
That's
And
once
we
again.
always complain about it.
When we were talking about Richard, I told him, listen, don't make a false equivalency of saying, okay, what Islam preaches is exactly what is in the
But we knew where he was coming from. His
Yeah,
heart was
yeah.
in the right place in what he was saying.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So what I'm saying is this.
Just defend it,
So
because he's
we
not
know, Islamically, there's certain rights, responsibilities that men have that women don't have. For example, divorce is easier for a man. No matter how any apologist wants to spin it, divorce is easier for a man than it is for a woman. I'll tell you why. Divorce is easier for a man. A man can marry up to 4 women, and if he can't do justice, he can marry only one.
I just want, but why? Like, what
I'll
would
tell
be
you.
the reason for that?
These are some of the differences. In some cases, the inheritance are different. Not always. Sometimes there is equality. Sometimes there isn't.
Inheritance is a big problem, I think.
Well, not really, because people have a misunderstanding on inheritance, by the way, and I can talk to you about that.
30 over 35 cases, it gives to the woman more than a man.
Yeah, in some
Like
cases.
30, yeah.
I don't know about 30, but what we do know that, for example, with inheritance, the highest group of people that get inheritance is a group of women, rather than men. So if you have 3 girls,
You're talking about who gets the inheritance, and then you're talking about how much inheritance.
how much? 3 girls get more than 3 boys, basically. Yeah, but then
How
one,
so?
because in the Quran it says,
I've
وَإِن
seen
كُنَّ
the
نِسَاء,
land divided
it says in the
up between
Quran,
family.
in chapter 4 of the Quran it says, وَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ فَلَهُمَا ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ. If there's more than 3 girls, or 2 or more girls, actually,
Wait, girls or women?
it's girls or women.
Okay.
So it includes both, because here the
girls.
فَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاء, the actual word in Arabic is females, women, yeah?
Yeah.
وَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ فَلَهُمَا ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ. If there's more than 2 or 3, then they get 2/3 of what is left behind. So the highest, in terms of inheritance, the highest group is 3 women.
Because there are more girls or women than there are men?
No. If there are 3 girls
Yeah.
and 1
Then
boy,
they get 2/3.
3 girls,
Yeah.
they get 2/3. Yes. Which, if there are men in the equation, if there are men like
Wait, but
father.
see, the thing is,
Sorry,
when
three
you use-
women.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
sorry.
get 1/3,
I apologize.
but if
3
it's
women.
a man,
say
Yes.
girl, you say boy.
Apologize.
You say woman, you say
No,
man.
daughter, granddaughter,
Okay.
etc. Yeah.
Any of the females.
Yeah,
like that.
females.
Yeah.
3 females get more than the men. If there are a husband, a mother and a daughter, and you die and you leave by your mother and your daughter, they get both 1/6 each. So it's equality there. In one case, there's a very clear disparity between where a boy gets more than a girl, and we can talk about that. Yeah. But the point is that that's been misconstrued as well. So there's 3 things here we've talked about.
I mean, the reason behind, I think that
You're right,
inheritance
Christine is asking
is
for
the
the
reason.
rationale,
Yeah.
really.
So
It's the reason why men
Yeah.
feel like they have property and that no one else can touch it. So like when we were nomads before, when we were hunter-gatherers, before we decided, oh, we're going to stay here and we're going to plant and whatever and cultivate, right? Then we decided, men decided, this is my land, this is my house, this is my donkey, and this is my wife, and don't you touch none of my shit, because when she has my children, I'm going to know that they're mine because you haven't touched her and she hasn't gone anywhere else. And now I know that I'm passing on all the things that are mine to my children. Okay. It's a completely capitalist, patriarchal way to think, and I don't think that it has to be that way.
Yeah,
if we weren't worried about property rights, we wouldn't be worried about owning women.
One thing at a time. By the way, Islam says nothing about owning women, yeah? Like in terms of your wife is not a person.
I'm speaking generally on this planet. I'm talking about human beings.
Fine. But I'm just going back, yeah? So apart from those kind of three main things.
I'm speaking as a human being. Are you speaking as a human or a Muslim?
I'm speaking as a Muslim, because you asked me a question about Islam. Then I'll come back to you about the human point, yeah?
He mostly speaks.
So in regards to Islam, these are the three main points I can think of now. Maybe there's a fourth one. Maybe leadership could be a fourth one, yeah? But even that is a controversial topic, so we're not going to go into it. These are the three main points that basically there is a difference between men and women, yeah? Now, apart from that, I can't really think of that many points.
Do you agree that there are other genders besides men and women?
No.
Why is that?
Biologically,
I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about gender.
Well, I mean,
I think Islam predates transgender.
But this is the problem.
No, it doesn't. There were people, for example, there was transgender people at the time of the Prophet. People don't know. Yeah, there were people that.
How were those people treated?
Well, the Prophet was very nice to them and kind to them. In fact, there was a discussion.
We had this conversation about, not with you, but
there's a discussion. There was a discussion with the scholars. They say, okay, should a person, because they were actually, a lot of them actually had been castrated, and so they identified a lot of them with females, femininity.
So they were hermaphrodites then?
No, they were castrated.
Oh, they were men who were, okay.
Yeah, so, but then I started to identify more with femininity, if you like, yeah? Socially constructed, whatever.
Yeah, actually happens, right?
Females. So a lot of scholars decided, like, there's a difference of opinion. Does a woman have to wear her headscarf in front of that person or not? There's actually discussion. So, because is she, does she have to wear a headscarf? There's discussion, yeah?
Why does she have to wear a headscarf?
That's another main point. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. That is definitely...
I like to jump around a lot.
Yeah. So these are the main differences. But dress code is definitely different. The reason why, in a nutshell, is because men and women are different. If you want a one-word answer,
women have to wear headscarves because
they're different to men. So here, the point is this. Remember, look, we said that. If you go back to Simone de Beauvoir, listen to me, yeah? Simone de Beauvoir, her point is that biology, psychology, and physiology, despite differences, we should have absolute equality. I'm saying no, or Islam says we should have general equality, but where there's differences, those should be accounted for. That's the argument.
The problem here is going to be how we account for them.
Yeah. So how we account for them, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be totally honest with you, right? There's two things in Islam. There's something called the illah and something called the hikmah. Illah, as we talked about before, is the reason behind the actual reason behind it. I cannot tell you. I'm not even allowed to tell you what the illah is, because unless the Quran mentions it very clearly or the hadith, I can't say the reason is this. I can only guess what the hikmah is, the wisdom. You understand?
You have to accept it. You have to accept the
So for us, the reason why we do all those things, in a nutshell, Christina, now listen, is because we genuinely believe that the Quran and the Sunnah is rationalizably, something which has come from God. It's a revelation. And God knows all the variables. He knows the extraneous variables. He knows the societal variables. He knows the personal... No, we don't believe he's a man in that sense.
You say he.
Yeah, because in the vernacular, if we say she, it's specific. We're supposed to say
all
he.
languages are sexist and misogynist.
Well, look, once again, it depends on how you define sexism and misogyny.
Well, if you're saying that God is not a man.
Yes, he's not a man. Yes, he's not a man.
And he has no gender.
Yeah, we don't believe Jesus is God.
But you say he.
Yeah.
You say he too.
Let me tell you something. In Arabic language, the word huwa, which is a pronoun, the first of 12 pronouns,
right.
Huwa means he. It's used to refer to singular men. It's used to refer, in the plural, hum is referred to men and women. So it's a little bit confusing. It's not the same as our English language.
I know, you've got to separate
Whereas
for two people and for
in Arabic, if you say she, it can refer to, for example, inanimate objects in plural form are females. If I'm talking about the trees, I'll use a plural form, a female form for that, a feminine form for that. So it's not as stringent, or it's different in Arabic. I'm using English language.
But why is it that we
so
in Arabic?
Yeah.
How do you refer to Allah?
We refer to Allah.
Which pronoun?
Okay, so Allah refers to himself as we in the plural,
So
magisterial plural. It's referred to in the third person as he. But as we said before, that's the default.
why is he the default?
Why is he the default? That's the language.
Right, like most languages.
Like most languages.